Thanks, Sridhar. Now, here at the Enterprise Innovation Summit 2021, we are incredibly excited to showcase innovation that will be tomorrow's norm. And you can learn more about what we have showcased in the virtual stalls hosted by our partners. You can visit our presenting partner, Yota, and our gold partners, Commvault, HP Enterprise Unique Solutions, Infoblox, Tata Communications, Veeam, Versec, the Uptime Institute, and Zoom. So do drop by our virtual stalls and engage with these innovations. There are giveaways here as well, courtesy of our partners. Coming up next is a fireside chat. Cybersecurity in the era of intelligence and super expanded attack surface. Leading this are Sakshi Chawla, the Director of Enterprise IT Security at Philips. Now, she is an information security leader with 2 decades of experience in global healthcare, retail, and life insurance. And she has experience in developing and managing company-wide governance, risk, information security, audit, and compliance programs. We also have Steve Dsouza, who is the Vice President and CISO at ICICI Lombard. Now, Steve has over 18 years of experience in the field of cyber and information security, governance, audit, and compliance, and extensive experience in banking and financial services domain. And anchoring this discussion is Jaspreet Singh, partner and at the Leader Trust and Information Practice, Grant Thornton, Bharat. Over to you.
Thanks for giving us this opportunity, and especially to me to moderate such an esteemed panel, the Fireside Chat. And the topic couldn't be more relevant in today's time, right? We are talking about attack surfaces and the increase on attack surfaces. Given that if a company had 5 offices in India today with a staff of 15,000, now it has 15,000 offices with everybody working from home, which in essential increases the attack surface area. I'm a huge fan of a World Economic Forum reports that they publish on a yearly basis. One of the risk reports that I read said in 2019 there was just a 7 to 8% probability that a pandemic will affect more than 10 plus countries, right? And 18 months down, we've got more than 150 plus countries affected by pandemic. We don't know. We keep talking about waves, wave 3, wave 4, kids, etc. All this is increasing, right? And every CEO, CXO that I speak to is really worried. They say, Jaspreet, we don't want to get up first thing in the morning and see our names in the newspaper from a cybersecurity breach point of view, which is very, very pertinent given the kind of attacks that are happening. Pick up any industry and you'll see that the ransomware attacks have just gone through the roof, right? No industry is being spared, right? Earlier we used to talk about banking and financial services probably being the most attacked industry, but now from manufacturing to airlines, almost every industry is facing this. Sakshi, let me start with you, right? With so many emerging technologies, right? People are talking about AI, ML, cloud, quantum computing, right? Does this act as an enabler to the entire cybersecurity piece, or do you think this is actually a point of concern for CISOs like you, right? And how can some of the organizations utilize these technologies to actually strengthen the cybersecurity posture of the company?
So thanks, Jaspreet. Thanks for having me over. An interesting question. I'd just like to start by saying that the views are my personal and not of my company. So yeah, just starting with that note. But yes, you're right, Jaspreet. Organizations are increasingly, the organizations today are increasing their digital footprints and they're adapting technology. They have to remain competitive as well as relevant. And so has the attack surface increased in an exponential way, So the challenges to security are becoming bigger than ever. And, both the sides, the criminals as well as the defense are trying to remain ahead of each other. We are in a, hyper-connected world today, and cyber attacks are no matter a longer of if, but rather when. And in such a scenario, the, landscape is undergoing like a metamorphosis right now. So in my opinion, in my personal opinion, yes, new technology is bringing in significant opportunity. And like you mentioned, transformative technologies like AI. So AI has the potential to make cybersecurity even more efficient and responsive against the ever increasing threats, and it can definitely help improve the cybersecurity posture of an organization. So I'd like to say that combining the strength of artificial intelligence with cybersecurity, we security professionals have additional resources to defend vulnerable networks and data from cyber attackers. So for example, now setting up firewalls, managing backups, and many such tasks, they require a professional. But AI is going to change this traditional approach. And I can summarize a few things that will define the role of AI, ML, and such technologies in cybersecurity. The first one that I'd like to say is threat protection, detection, and response. Organizations will be able to monitor and respond to security incidents using these advanced tools. The second one I'd like to say firewalls, which is actually the primary component for ensuring security of network and information. So the way the security policies are instituted are like firewall rules, and an anomaly in these firewall rules can lead to serious security gaps. So when the network is so large and the policies are so complicated, I feel manual cross-check is insufficient to detect anomalies. And with AI, ML, automated models and high performance, computing methods are proposed for detecting these anomalies in firewall rule repositories. So to achieve all of this, analysis of firewall logs and, features, and these can be set as a machine learning algorithm. And, that's why I feel like firewall can rely on machine learning to analyze the massive amounts of data. So yeah, the next gen firewalls will have built-in ML technology, and that could find a pattern in the network and, block them automatically.
Perfect. I think, from being a hyper-connected world to, not a question of if you'll be attacked to when it will be attacked. So then, Steve, just taking it a little further, right? We discussed that security parameters have become more fluid, right? I read somewhere that we are now living in a borderless world, right? At least metamorphically, right? Sakshi said, right? We can no longer rely on the old models that we used to secure our traditional networks, because I really don't know what a network is. Since everybody is working from home, the new area. What do you think should be some of the measures that organizations would take to to safeguard the organization, so to say?
From a network perspective, right? You're saying?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. So as Sakshi rightly said, right, today the environment has become really complex. So whether it's work from home or, with the leapfrog of organizations moving to digital, moving to cloud, the setup is today hybrid, multi-cloud. The APIs itself that have got extended. Every business cannot work independently. There's a huge API integration base that has been set up between banks, insurance companies, OEMs, things like that. So the network is really expanded. There is no logical network at all, right? It is expanded. So given that in mind, you need to have a different setup today. The earlier model was connect and then authenticate, right? That's how you were going in the earlier model. But I think today's model is different. It is more of you authenticate first and then connect. I think that's where the entire concept of zero trust has come in, and that's why you need to take care of whom you connecting with. At the end of the day is the user, the service, the app, and you need to know all of this. Earlier it was more specific to, okay, you were restricting your connections only to your office network for people and from systems that you know. And this is not the case right now. Now you're allowing your expanded network to be connected from anywhere to anyone. So you really need to have systems and technologies like what Sakshi mentioned about the AI, to know who these people are, where they're connecting from, and making behavior profiles around it, right? So obviously, starting with having a zero trust network is what is bare minimum. I think you have to, and it's a buzzword in today's landscape anyway. Apart from that, I think what is the next important and logical point is micro segmentation, because you need to segment your setup in a way that you are saving and protecting your crown jewels as against at the same time ensuring that you are enabling enough communication channels to different platforms and different organizations that want to connect to you, as well as making those communication models available, whether it is your mobile applications or web applications or other means of that you're allowing your customers, both retail as well as corporate, to connect with you. So for me, zero trust network kind of a setup, micro segmentation, and importantly, protecting your data in terms of encryption is very, very important.
I think some brilliant points, right? We connected first and then authenticated, to now we authenticated and then connected to the entire zero trust micro segmentation model. Sakshi, coming to you, right? If I just add the COVID lens on top of it, right? And we discussed this previously, saying, perimeterless organization, everybody's working from home, right? What do you think should organizations do to make sure that this entire new world is safe, secure, and people working from home do very well?
Sure, thanks, Jaspreet. Enough is said about COVID-19 being the biggest, global tragedies in the modern history, and how it's caused severe impact on businesses. In fact, it's kind of changed the mode and the manner in which we operate business today. So businesses are, but the recent trend that I'm seeing is that the businesses are gradually returning from a complete remote working to a hybrid model, which is at home and office work as well. And this mix is varying from company to company. I think the discussion has shifted away from remote working to the idea of working from anywhere. So businesses must adopt a very long-term strategy and solution that will enable them to maintain this work from anywhere paradigm. But yeah, coming to the the basics of how to secure information assets and remote workers to protect our company's top line and bottom line, I'd like to say the 4-5 key things would be like multi-factor authentication on all VPNs, with high availability, selective remote access to critical IT resources and emergency management capacities. Thirdly, I'd like to say we need to definitely limit the administrator access and the activities, and make sure we are carrying out periodic backups. Fourthly, of course, antivirus and patch management has always been there with improved web and email protection. And we talked about this earlier about active, threat intelligence, advanced threat intelligence, I'd like to say, and improve monitoring capabilities. And all these 5 points, I think the surrounding, the arrows that come in my mind when I think about this is the continued cyber awareness for all end users working remotely. So these are some of the key things that come to my mind on this one.
So just a follow-up question to you. Why do you think user awareness is such a key in these times?
User awareness is definitely a key. Human is the weakest link. It's continuous, it's perpetual bombardment every minute, 24/7 by 365, and the odds are in favor of the attacker, because they only need this one unsuspecting person to click on a malicious link or an attachment, or open up the gates to a, entire corporate network. And the truth is that nobody is immune. There are entry-level employees, there are contractors, there are interns at the one end, and up to the C-suite that goes up. So even business partners can be, your indirect targets, because they can be mined to obtain information to soften up the actual targets. So for those of us now who are connecting into office through our home networks, I feel like even our children are potential targets, So I feel secure, I've seen cases where even seasoned security professionals, they get caught off guard. So in part, the tactics have become so sophisticated that I feel like, majority of employees are today receiving phishing awareness trainings, and they are able to spot, suspicious emails. And this is like an important progress that we've been able to make on remote working. But yes, it's a continuous journey. So the push has to be there on training.
Superb. This is the first time I'm hearing on how children have become a threat. At least at home, I've become more like a IT administrator, saying Zoom's not working, speakers not working, cameras not working. Perfect. Steve, your thoughts on the new borderless world? How do we secure this? Anything you would like to add to this?
No, I think employee awareness is a must. If the industry trends, if you talk to organizations who provide phishing simulation as a service. The average, the average percentage of during simulation varies anywhere between 30 to 40%. So this obviously represents, how important it is that people fall prey to these phishing simulations, which are not even that targeted at per se. And we all know, right from the cases of ONGC to some of the other well-known phishing attacks that have led to major financial crisis. So it's important that end of the day, no matter what tool and technology that we put, it's the people behind that, how aware they are, how they're driving it, especially your employees, how to use them is very, very important. So I think building that awareness culture, our cyber culture, as you call it, I would say is the topmost priority, and without which cybersecurity really can go the long way.
Right. And so let's continue this thread, and the threat landscape is evolving, right? You yourself said that it's becoming more and more sophisticated.
Right.
So while from a user awareness, we'll have to up the game, right?
Right.
But there is also a recognized need to move away from the traditional business models of security, right?
Right.
Only simple role-based access control, if I were to look at it, though is the stepping stone to larger models, but it is completely there, right? So what would be your suggestion and tips to help some of your fellow CISOs in optimizing their security, right? And how do you combat the next gen cyber criminals? Given Sakshi said that between the criminals and the defenders, the game is on. And really, if you ask my personal opinion, I still think that attackers have an edge on defenders as of today. So your thoughts?
Yeah, so see, I think every security professional for the organization have been building security strategies over a period of time, and a lot of investment that has gone right from next generation firewalls to endpoint controls to others. But I think with today's changing landscape, what is really important is how do you carry out a comprehensive risk assessment to continuously analyze the changing landscape, to understand the business priorities that are changing. So I would begin with, first of all, to comprehensively and to continue doing a very meaningful risk assessment to understand what is your tolerance levels, and follow that up with to understand where are your critical assets. I think you need to bring these two things together with the risk assessment of knowing what your priorities are, your tolerance levels are, and to knowing where and what are your assets, because your assets are everywhere now today, right? You have your data on cloud, you have your data on the user's mobile, you have your data everywhere. So you need to have a very strong identity, data classification, data, how you call it, scanning kind of strategy as well. You need to know these. So I think apart from a risk assessment, identification of your assets and the risk that are associated with this is the next. Then obviously is re-looking at your cyber strategy. You have implemented some solutions like NAC and all of that, but today you need to go into the world of zero trust, which we spoke some time back. You were talking about edge computing, so you have a different strategy to address edge computing. So you need to really look at your defense and the strategy that you applied, and and really look at whether the traditional securities and processes that we implemented are really catering to the next generation technology that is around today. Apart from that, your cyber response strategy. I think you need to build those playbooks that are there. Without those playbooks, you really don't know whether these security technologies that you implemented or processes that are working or no. Based on your playbooks and the associated controls that are there, you need to test them out regularly. Only then you can know that your secure strategy is really cyber resilient, and you'll be able to allow the organization to continue operating even when you know, and we all know that today or tomorrow the cyber attack is going to happen. But this cyber simulation and testing of your cyber strategy will ensure that you are resilient and you continue doing business as usual. And the last is the cyber culture that we spoke about. I think without that cyber culture, without ensuring different levels of individuals in the organization are provided different kinds of training, right? We're talking about the normal phishing user awareness for your employees. Then we talk about even developers today, right? They are going into serverless technology, they're using IoT and all of that. You need to have the relevant security training for them. Otherwise, they continue doing the development. However, the type of vulnerabilities and the type of breaches are changing, and they are not updated with what's happening with this latest technology, it won't work. And obviously, with the people who are safeguarding this, their own security staff and the IT staff who are monitoring it, I think they need to have comprehensive training to understand how all of the strategies that you put in place need to be brought together and how they work. I think these are some of the critical elements that every organization should look at to continue building on the cybersecurity strategies.
I think very, very beautifully put from a strategy perspective on what do organizations need to do from a going forward perspective. And you started talking about user awareness, phishing. Sakshi, I think this will be very, very important and interesting that we delve on phishing, on the malware attacks piece. We all know that phishing and malware attack has just gone through the roof. I was reading somewhere that there's been like a 900% increase in the phishing attacks only in India, and I shudder to think, if I look at the global statistic, it might be 4 or 5 figures percentage increase. Right? How do you think employees should number one look at the entire social engineering piece, and what should employer do to make sure that some of the pieces don't fall through the cracks?
Sure, Jaspreet. So you very well rightly said that there's been a significant increase as per the threat intelligence, and these attacks are coinciding with a temporary drop in the more traditional attacks. So that indicates the attackers are modifying their efforts to accommodate the changes due to the pandemic. So I think in cybersecurity, social engineering attacks, let's talk about a little bit more about what it exactly is. It is that, when, the attackers are leveraging malicious tactics and social interactions to manipulate our users into giving up confidential information. And with more people now working from home and they're connecting back into their office from home networks, from sometimes using their personal computers or mobile phones, attackers are looking at these devices as a way to get into the corporate world and the cloud. And they're attempting to lure these unsuspecting victims into malicious sites and clicking on links and providing personal information. So the attackers are, capitalizing on the current business environment, and they're impersonating, legitimate organizations like the Center of Disease Control, fake information updates, and I've seen discounted masks and other supplies. And we've seen that during the, last wave, promises of accelerated access to vaccines. So they're really staying ahead. And the reason is that, the attack strategy is using the psychology of the target victims. It's so prevalent and it so works, So I feel like cyber criminals are being so opportunistic and they are constantly preying on the vulnerability that cannot be patched, which is the humans. So the first step I'd like to say is that to help employees feel like they're a part of the security team, we need to help them to understand the repercussions of a security event and how it can, personally affect them. I feel that's like a good place to start. And seeing connections between these, safe cybersecurity practices and the positive impact that they would feel, and engaging the, users and making them responsible for it. I feel this should lead to direct improvements in how people really behave when they are confronted or, they have a suspicious cyber behavior, like a questionable email or a website. And the next I feel is to give employees the tools that they need. So I mean, for example, most of these organizations, there is no typically easy way to manage, this complex passwords and things like that. So if they choose a password management program which generates and manages complex passwords, it's only because of their own initiative. So I feel like, a mix of all of that. And of course, changing the process by taking as much as this risk as possible out of their hands. So organizations need to update, the email security gateways and, to eliminate all these malicious attachments and links. So, web application firewalls. I mean, technology, of course, will stay a very big part of being able to identify and disable the malicious code. So, yeah, I feel like, with the right training, the right tools and effective processes, it's a balance of all of that, and including support from the top tier, company leaders. That is the way security team can actually make, make sure that everybody is taking cybersecurity seriously.
Quite interesting. I met a CISO about a week ago, and I asked him. I said, what's your approach to cyber awareness training? He said, I make it very, very simple. He says, right from the guard who sits at the premises gate to the CEO, I have to make sure everybody is trained because everybody has some part to play during information security training, right? And from the awareness perspective, so that you don't fall prey. And the second point that you made around the entire human psyche piece, criminals, playing with that, it's absolutely true. And like you mentioned, not only vaccination shots, but also the entire fake medicine news saying it's available here, oxygen is available in these parts of the country. It was a well thought through propaganda for people to click on malicious links, etc. Right, and the entire fake inventory of medicines being uploaded on websites, etc. was uh, yeah, also something which I've also noticed is if you see as soon as we hit the March closing or we hit October, November, the phishing attacks related to IT returns start increasing. That means somebody clearly is putting out there is a method to this madness, right? It's not that somebody, just is keeping on generating phishing emails. We worked with with India's world's topmost technology company, and during January when they do their entire annual planning, uh, the top management actually got emails masquerading as CEO saying, what are the top 5 things from a strategy perspective you would like to see in this year, so on and so forth. So you're very on the button. So just a fun thing, Sakshi, Steve. I got asked this question once when I was on the other side of the table. I thought I'll take this chance and ask both of you this question. What's the safest computer in this world?
I don't think there is anything as 100% safe. We've seen
risk management answer, Sakshi.
A safest computer is only the one that where you don't know about that the attack has already happened. That's the safest computer.
That's a CISO answer. That's a CISO answer, right? I could.
You tell me, just.
Yeah. So I obviously mixed and matched both these and spoke about it. But the person said the safest computer in the world is which is actually shut down, locked in a box, put it on chains, and thrown in the ocean. Just on a lighter note. So
I've read this one somewhere. Now I recall. Yeah.
Yeah. So Steve, coming to you, right? We've spoken about attack vectors. We've spoken about all things bad that are happening, right? But let's also face it. We are in the world where advanced analytics, AI is actually making easier to analyze complex attacks, huge amount of data. We're talking about terabytes of data, event correlation, event records, etc. And it is also helping to detect some of these larger potential attacks, right? Uh, Gartner study about 7-8 years ago said it takes about 180 odd days to detect a cyber attack. With some of these tools, technologies coming in, Gartner has revised it and said, it is about 110, 112 days, which is a very significant reduction. Are we there yet? No. But are we making progress? Yes. So how can organizations rise to, these security emergency challenges, as I would like to talk about, with the help of some of these intelligent tools and technologies?
Like you said, see, the volume of data is really tremendous. We have, apart from the data centers that we spoke about, the traditional data center, the IaaS, the PaaS, we're talking about SaaS services. I think everybody, almost every organization today is using, O365 G Suite, is using some of the, SaaS solution. The amount of data that is being churned from the multiple setups that you have is really tremendous. How do you really analyze all of this, right? It's your traditional SIEM. It's not even possible to pump in so much of data. It will just shut down because the EPS count will be so heavy. It will not. So you obviously need to then use some of these advanced technologies that are now coming up with AI enabled and other related technologies. I think there are 4 or 5 very specific use cases. Why you're saying AI will be and has to be an important element of your overall cybersecurity strategy going forward. But I think there has to be a proper balance between, because you also need to ensure that your must-have technologies have to be in place. We have a limited budget there, right? So it's not that you can go for the most advanced or the latest technology. You have to have a proper balance, because you have resources which are limited. I think within that, it's important to really first define what are the use cases within which you want to ensure that these technologies will be used. And among them, I think the top 2 or 3 that come to my mind is on the identification itself, user identification. We spoke about in this hybrid world, the remote working, hybrid working. People are going to be working from anywhere, right? So identifying these users, whether it's your employees, whether it's your customers, whether it's your partners, and what is their behavior of accessing your setup, whether it is your retail system, or whether it is a core system, whether it's a normal behavior or a privileged users. I think putting this data into an AI machine learning model is itself very, very important. Only then you'll be able to use and churn out meaningful data to predict if there's something going wrong, and to address it on time. I think from a transaction monitoring perspective, also this data analysis using tools like these have been there in place, right? Your fraud management systems have been there, and that's how the transaction monitoring takes place. Apart from that, I think from a data security perspective, I said your data today is on your laptop, is on a stored, is on a shared drive, is on your network NAS, it's over cloud, it's everywhere. Now, how do you really know what data is critical? So you need to have your data classification, your data scanning tools in place to know really where your critical data is. The PI data is everywhere. With that, only can you have a proper data security strategy. If you are a retail customer today, I think your website is being hit by millions and millions of bots. How do you really detect them? Your traditional WAF and next generation firewall solutions cannot. So you need to have your technologies around bot detection in place to protect, to really identify and block the malicious traffic. It's not only about your data moving out, but you also think your systems will slow down and have overall performance imperatives. And as part of your overall response strategy, I think we know about. So again, I said churning so much of data that is being created by your next generation firewalls, by your WAF, by your AD systems, by your DNS systems. All this cannot be possible in your traditional SIEM system. So today, with SOAR and playbooks, you will be able to really have a timely response only if you have proper, well-defined, simulated playbooks in place, which will look at this data, have some specific AI models that are there, so that they can respond on time and protect you from any possible adversary.
Interesting that you spoke about use cases, right? I think people just run around to buy technology. It's a herd mentality, right? You hear about 3 companies who bought a particular technology, then you'll see 10, 20 other companies following suit and buying technology. A common question to both of you. Steve, this time I'll give you the chance to go first. And I like to define it, the new future in 3 steps, which is today, tomorrow, and beyond, right? So today is 30 days, 60 days, tomorrow is next 6 months, and beyond, 2 years, maybe. The new normal is rapidly evolving, right? We don't know what the new normal will look like. Will it be complete work from home? And a lot of companies like Wipro, Infosys, TCS, about a year ago, same time said that we'll perpetually give work from home. Suddenly, a week ago, they announced that no, 50% of our staff is coming back to office. So how do you think this new normal actually changed the cyber strategies of companies across the globe?
There's a lot of, the technology itself has been changing over a period of time. As we said, the traditional technologies are not helping anyone. So if you're talking about hybrid environment or a work from home environment, your technology is not supporting you. That itself made a drastic change in what your cyber strategy and what your budgets were last year, right? You had to go in for all of these new technologies that would enable your employees to work from anywhere. In not only the security stack, but also the collaboration tools. I think without which it was not possible to work in the pandemic environment in the last 12 to 18 months. So I think it started from there. And how do you then ensure that the systems that your employees are using, right from patch management to antivirus and the others, are updated on time. So a lot of investment has gone over there, and that itself has changed the strategy on how do you address and enable that the hygiene elements of your system are well under control, so that you at least know that the adversaries are not taking advantage of vulnerabilities that have creeped in because the systems have not been updated. I think so. If you talk about today, I think, and people coming back to work after 12 to 18 months, you need to first ensure that those systems really are compliant and are again meeting the standards that probably were there when they were in office. I think it starts from there, because that's the bare minimum. If your systems are vulnerable, you're sitting on a time bomb, and that can be exploited anywhere. When it talks about 6 months, the zero trust network, the SASE model, and all of these are staged wise implementation. It cannot be done immediately. You go business specific, you go department specific, you go use case specific, and then implement it. I think that's over a period of 6 months how you look at the overall, if there's any change in your model, because the models are changing on how you're operating. And over a period of time, if I think long term, I think automation is the way out, because none of these we have so much of technology and tools today. If there is no proper automation, I think you will not be able to sustain it. You cannot have, you cannot keep on building or recruiting people and ask these guys to manually look at these assets. It's not possible. So I think the future would be on where do you integrate these systems, and how will you automate everything, bring it together, and in a position to, with automation in place, ensure a timely response to make your system more resilient.
Superb. Last comments from you, Sakshi.
So I think Steve has covered it all, but I'd just like to say there's definitely a paradigm shift in the way cybersecurity functions are operating today. And I feel like just the only point that I'd like to add to what Steve said is that, we need to enable a new business reality. We need to add value to the business. So I feel cybersecurity functions, the change that is required or is coming in today is that we need to be a business advisor and transformation enabler with the business. So we need to join hands with the business. We need to realign, the roadmaps and cybersecurity strategies that we have, the way we manage security governance management and the operational structures. So we need to definitely revisit, the way we do risk assessments and, include more of third-party assessments and things like that, with, of course, advanced, intelligence platforms at the same time. So I feel like, definitely we need to employ a multifaceted, risk mitigation plan, considering the pandemic perspectives that we've seen.
Superb. Steve, Sakshi, thanks a ton. Whether it is understanding about the hyper-connected world, looking at, if and not when we will be hacked, to looking at use cases first, to understanding whether I connect and then authenticate, or authenticate and then connect, to the entire zero trust micro-segmentation model, to talking about now, today, and the entire future piece. It was really a privilege hosting this fireside chat with both of you. Be safe, be healthy. Thank you so much.